You can't teach someone to do business, you have to do it.
Like cricket, education is something that everybody has a commentary on, right?
No one after us can ever say, I've seen a world without the internet.
Why you decided to do all this crazy stuff?
Crazy stuff because
Crazy people do.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the ReSchool podcast. Today we have two more amazing guests who come from such different walks of life that they will bring so much value to this conversation. And as usual, we will allow them to introduce themselves in a manner that best fits their own personality. So, let's start with you, Yash.
Well, thank you, Meenal, and it's great to be on this podcast. My name is Yash Vasant, and I am a collector. I'm a collector of incredible stories, of great experiences, of immensely powerful people, and above all, of relationships that truly make me better. I'm an educator by profession. I've had the opportunity to build the largest communities in the world. I'm the executive director of BNI in several regions of the country, and I founded an organization called Corporate Connections. However, today what makes me proud is we're doing this podcast as the founder of Playtos Miniversity, which I believe is the greatest curriculum that's been built for children from the ages of 10 to 14. And today is exciting. So this is why I am here today.
Thank you so much. And definitely if I had read out your bio, it wouldn't have done justice to what you just said. Sure. Yes, Aditya.
Yeah, I think after that great introduction, it is tough. But I think, I also believe that I'm a marketer, educator, creator. But I think with all those terms, there is eventually this identity, which is because, where I am the founder and the CEO, which is a branding and marketing consultancy, focused a lot in education. So where we work with schools, edtech companies, government, at a policy level, which is exciting because that's what my personal passion is. And I've tried to figure out how can I bring my personal passion to work so that it seems more enjoyable. So yeah, and looking forward to this discussion today. And I've been very excited about ReSchool from the time I read the first draft to now doing this podcast. I think it has been a great journey, just witnessing of how you have turned your ideas into a book, to a podcast, and I'm sure so many more things to come.
Thank you so much. And I think in great part, this podcast has been ideated by you and you deserve all the credit for it. Given that we are in the ReSchool podcast, we ought to talk about schools. So can you guys kind of tell me, what was your schooling like? What was that experience? And if you look back at it, what were the things that stand out for you? So.
Okay.
Did you do this in Ahmedabad?
Yeah, I studied in Ahmedabad. I think my school was okay. Right? Like I would not say that my school had a huge impact. But one thing that I still remember, I don't remember anything that I was taught, but I remember everything about how I was made to feel. Right? And I think that's something that schools not so consciously used to do then. Right? Like, so I remember one of my teachers who was a social studies teacher, Nanda ma'am. I don't remember anything she taught, but how she made me feel is something that I still remember. And I think that's what life is about, right? Like you will always remember how people make you feel and not what they told you, right? So I think that's what I remember. And I studied at Asia. The only thing we had apart from education was volleyball, and I was a volleyball player. And I remember traveling from my home at stadium, going at 6:30 on my bicycle just so that I can block that net so nobody else can play. I think that was the passion, saying that I want to play volleyball and all of that. So I think it was interesting. The best part about my school that I still remember and I cherish most are my friends. And I think that's another very interesting and the best part of any school life is that your school friends will probably stay with you forever. Your college friends might be there, might not be there, but I see with most of the people, your school friends are there throughout your life. So yeah, I think how they made me feel, volleyball and my friends. That's what I remember of my school.
So essentially, everything that the school kind of fusses about are not the things that students carry with them. They carry the things that we as schools look at as byproducts. We believe how the student feels is not our concern. Our job is to teach, but actually, as a student, that's the one that that they carry forward. And definitely sports. I mean, you're not the first person to tell me that my memories are outside of the classroom, that they are related to all things sports and all of that. And even today, I think that's true for students even today. Like, if every time we have this reflection session and we speak to our students and they'll be like, no, we want more sports session, we want this every time. Every year it's like, why are you even teaching us? We can see this video and we can kind of educate ourselves and all of that. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yes.
Yeah, and no, and I was happy to hear that, because it is true. Nobody remembers what you say. They remember how you made them feel. I don't know how you kind of, or what research you did, but I had quite the experience in my schooling, because I started off with St. Xavier's Loyola, which is sports, crazy, that's the school. And then my family's been in education, so I was in Ahmedabad in a school called Delhi Public School, and then I moved to boarding school. And boarding school is a whole nother journey. And my recommendation, sincerely to everyone, is to go to boarding school at least for some time in their life, because it made me who I am. It 100% did. And talking about not learning in the classroom and learning out, I can tell you so much. So I really enjoyed my boarding school experience, and the memories that come back to me as I speak of it. I went to a school called the Chinmaya International Residential School in Coimbatore, and then to the International School of Bangalore. And these are two very distinct societies. I mean, think about it. I go to Chinmaya, and my competition is what? The Gita chanting competition, I could recite the Gita page 1 to, the last page, and that was our competition. However, the distinctness of memories is like this. I remember when I got to school, I was in 5th grade. And it was my decision. I said, I want to go to boarding school. And I remember for the first time seeing my dad shed a tear, But anyhow, we go there, and there were friends of yours actually, Rajabai and all that took me there. And then when I finally, it was the first day to check in, we had this dorm. And the dorm has about, 15 boys in one dorm, or maybe 20 boys in one dorm, bunks. And I get to the bunk, my mother's there, and I go take a shower. And I go to the shower, and they're all communal showers. And once I'm done with my shower, I come outside, and I'm wearing my clothes, and my mom says, "Where's your towel?" I said, "Well, I put it in the laundry." She says, "Yash, the laundry here comes after 3 weeks." Good luck. 3 weeks. You don't put your towel after every shower. Now this is the kind of a lesson that you just kind of take in from that space, because it's tough. I mean, we went through seniors and this and that and doing stuff. We had scorpions show up in our backyard, and elephants one day tried to take down the whole school. I was attacked by a boar. I had the opportunity to go horseback riding in a 100-acre campus situated on a mountain. These kind of memories stuck with me, because I think it is the experience where we are not taught what we don't know what we're taught. We know what we realize. And realization happens through a process. And when you realize something, it becomes absolute knowledge to you. So my boarding school experience really, really built me up. And Bangalore, I must mention, put me in a league with people who were super ambitious. Because a school also attracts the kind of students that it has, like the kind of students you have, for instance. And you are learning so much from your peers, so much from your peers. So inside, outside, to me, irrelevant. Relevant more so is the who. Who am I sitting with? I'm going to become like that. I don't need to see your stars. Show me your friends and I'll tell you your future. And TISB put me in a situation that then set the path for my education after school, which I think was very critical.
Great.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. We learn so much more from our peers than, especially as children, we don't pay attention to what adults are saying.
Yeah.
We literally zone out. And I think we do what they do, we emulate them, but we don't listen to what they say. We watch and learn. Yeah. So as adults, if anything, we need to be true role models. And I think that's true for all generations and all age groups. So yeah, two distinct schooling journeys and very interesting ways of...
I just for once felt like he went to some National Geographic school.
Schools like that are the schools you want. We are Nat Geo, we are animals. You don't want to be away from nature and animals in that sense.
Agreed. And then it brings you to your adulthood, in which, from different aspects of life, both of you ended up being associated with this field of education in one form or another. Right? You found your own way to work with students, whether while you've not founded schools per se, you are schooling hundreds and thousands of people. So can you tell me, what does it feel like to work in the field of education today? And are there any trends that you are noticing which are different from what you saw as a young student back then?
And I'll tell you this, Meenal, it's so beautiful that you asked, because it's been a question, I think, every person's life, and in my life has been to understand why you're doing what you're doing, and what is the larger purpose in that sense. But for me, one thing that became abundantly clear is, if you want to have a deep impact in the world in any form or manner, the answer 100% without a doubt, no matter who says what on what podcast, is education. And education at all ages. For instance, I'll tell you a fun fact that I believe to be true from my observation. The exact age group of people that I think are in trouble, I don't want to say trouble to create a scandal, but they're kind of in a flux, is 45. A 45-year-old in today's world, the exact age of 45 today in this world as we exist. By the way, we are the last generation of people ever on this planet that can say the following. I remember when I got the internet. No one after us can ever say, I've seen a world without the internet. And anyhow, the impact that education makes at a younger level and a higher level is incredible. And I think it is awesome how adult education has picked up in the past decade or so. Self-development in that sense is education, but a lot of times it just becomes shelf development and not self-development with the age. But I was drawn to it with adults to start with. So BNI as our community, I think, is an education community from the age of 25 to 50, because really you can't teach someone to play cricket. You have to play it. You can't teach someone to do business. You have to do it. You can't teach someone public speaking. Yeah, you need an audience, right? It's these kind of things. So BNI kind of builds that for entrepreneurs, corporate connections at a much higher level. But I built 2 campuses, which I must tell you. So this is a sad truth, but I'll tell it to you, since you understand this deeply, is with adults. I believe I was able to have deep impact, still am. However, if they left my paradigm, it is very likely that they'll revert back to original. But with children, it stays. It stays, and hence, the thought process of working with kids came about. And with a lot of research, I spent 6 years doing it. That age of 10 to 14, I mean, they're literally going from being children to being teens. So much body changes, so many things in their mind. And it's amazing to see what these kids end up doing after some period. I can only imagine how you feel after tens of thousands of kids. But yeah, that's the impact, I think. Change a generation, you're in education.
Great. Yeah, Aditya.
I think he rightly said, I think anybody who's in education, it is for that purpose, right? I think I don't see anybody at least getting into education with the only mindset of profiteering. I think if that's the mindset, they will not survive. And we have seen a lot of that in the last 5 years on what has happened in edtech particularly. So I think for me also, because my journey was media, marketing, and then I happened to work at Education Initiative, which I think is one of the most pioneering company in education. They have been edtech before the edtech existed. So that kind of helped me understand what I really want to do. But I still felt that like cricket, education is something that everybody has a commentary on, right? Because everybody has a child, everybody has been to a school, so everybody has a view about it. And we crib a lot about education, but we hardly do anything about it. And I was also one of such people, right? Like particularly criticizing the government systems and not doing this. But fortunately in this whole journey, I got an opportunity to start working with the government systems also. Obviously there is a lot to be improved, but then jumping into it and then being able to contribute and being able to move a needle even by 1 degree is a significant impact. It's not enough, but it's significant. But I think if more people start thinking like that, right? If we start removing those lines of public schools and private schools, then I think India is in a great position. Because I think there is intent on all the side. I think there is a huge intent, which I think is the big change that I see in last 10 years, saying that everybody at least acknowledges that we need to reschool. I don't think anybody is out there which says, I have a perfect school. I think the most established schools to the newest of schools, they all know they will have to reschool and they'll have to figure it out. So I think that learning mindset or the learner mindset that schools have, I think is a big change, right?
And I think that is what is making India gallop its way towards being a greater country, where we've realized that we have so much ground to cover. That and if there's one place to begin with, it is definitely schools. As you said, if you want to make lasting impact, you have to begin with education and all of that. And I absolutely agree with your point of saying that the kids, whatever you work with them, it stays for a lifetime. It's like, when they are wet clay, and the way you work with them, it changes for a lifetime. With adults,
responsibility is big.
oh yeah, with adults, the problems definitely are that when they are in that circumstance or in that group, they will behave in that certain manner.
Yes.
But once they are out of that, somehow you tend to fall back on your deterministic genetic values of saying that, survival of the fittest, etc., all of that. So, yeah, interesting trends that we are seeing.
But I have a question for you, which I was thinking that, because I've heard these stories that people would say, GGIS 10 years back, આ તો કેટલું દૂર છે, તો ગામના છેડે છે, and now it's like in the middle of the city. But it would have been a tough decision for you, right? Like you could have created one more school, right? Like it could have been a normal CBSE school and you would have got maybe more number of students. Why you decided to do all this crazy stuff?
Crazy stuff because
Crazy people do.
I know, because I am crazy at some level. Also, I believe I was disenchanted with my own schooling. So my own schooling, as you said, there were no strong memories. Also, I had changed some 8-9 schools, mostly missionary schools. My father was in a transferable job, so moved from one place to another. But there was hardly a moment of inspiration. There was hardly something that would spark your mind and say that, this is what you can do that. So that's something that I missed. And I didn't even realize I missed it till I had my own daughter and I sent her to school. And then she cried and wailed. And she's like, I'm not going there. That 3-year-old threw a tantrum. And she put her foot down and fought all the adults in the home. She's like, I am not going to school, because it was, and there was nothing wrong with this school. It was a standard preschool kind of a place, which was decent and all of that. That is when I realized there's something really broken out here. And then what do? You start reschooling yourself. You start understanding where all of this comes from and what is it that we can do to make things work better. Also, I think one of the biggest blessings that we had for this school particularly was that we were far away from the city. So what happened was there were very few people who were interested in us as a school. So we had a very small number of students to begin with, and we had the freedom and the faith of parents to try out new things, to fail, to apologize, had it been, as you said, a standard CBSE school or a conventional school with 200, 500 students, I would have become a great school administrator,
but
I would not have become an educator. So I think it was a blessing in disguise. That's awesome. Where I happened to fail so miserably that I had no choice but to rise up.
But it's funny how we do all this only when we have kids. You have kids.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't, no one gets into education just because of their schooling. So it's a pattern you'll see. And also spaces inspire. And when you're out, you can build something like this, right? I mean, that's incredible.
Exactly. So because we were away from the city, we had the pleasure of, and right now what you see is a relatively urbanized space for this place as well. 10 years ago, we were in the midst of your fields. We had snakes on campus. Parents don't listen to.
Man, you need it. You need it.
And then our students would give school tours. And once a parent was being given a school tour, and the parent comes back to me all panting, "You have snakes on campus and children play with snakes?" I'm like, oh God.
No, we don't do that. It was a rubber
we just
snake.
have real life snakes and ladders.
Too much real. Another funny incident that happened was a parent, and specifically that parent, the child had come from TISB.
Really?
Yeah. So, and I meet all parents who come to school, okay, for admissions. I'm sitting with this parent, and our classrooms have glass doors and all of that, so that there's more visibility. I'm sitting there, so I can look into the atrium. The parent is looking at me, and I'm sitting there, and right behind the parent, there are 2-3 monkeys roaming around in the campus, and I have no clue how to respond, because if I react, the parent is going to stand up and feel like, oh God, which Nat Geo school have I landed up in? Fortunately, the monkeys decided to go away, and they were just using this as
Parents came in, right? Okay.
Yeah, I think like this might give Net Geo some ideas. Like, let's approach school with something that we'll put.
And there are schools like this in the world.
Yeah,
You
there
see
are
the ones in
schools like that.
Indonesia, and it's crazy.
Yeah. Interesting.
Great. We've spoken about what is it to be in schools for yourself, things that you have seen change and trends and all of that. But both of you are parents to young children, young girls, I think. What is it to be a parent, and what are the things that you see which are different in their education journey versus, say, what you've had? Also, something about the parents of today.
Man.
You have 2 kids. You start.
Well, yeah, I have 2 back to back. You know, I have this Israeli mentor who told me, Yash, banawa jaye to back to back banao. I want to have 6 is the goal.
Oh, wow, I'm not there. My kids are just 2 years apart, and both of them share the same birthday.
Wow.
Wow.
Yes, both of them are 10th July.
How did you do that? Sure. So, and having children, especially, and I think every person has their own journey. As a man, it's a different journey. As a woman, it's a different journey. And you go from having a role model to becoming one. And I think that's the biggest transition a person makes in their life. The same things you did and someone told you not to do, but you still did them because that's what you wanted to do, are the same things you're telling them not to do. And it's this weird world that you get into. However, starting from, I have a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. A 2-year daughter, Vera, and Aryan, a 3-year-old son. And the journey has been quite incredible, because now I had so much, because I was in education before I had kids. So I'm reading all this, watching all this, taking all this in. I have my experiences, people's experiences, great friends around the world. I've been to over 85 countries, so I've seen schools in so many countries. I got educated in 3 countries. So there was all this stuff in my head, and then when the child comes about, you're able to vet information with reality, and I think that was a great check for me. And then the fundamentals kind of arose for me. Fundamentals are like this. This is how children spell love. The spelling of love is Time, right? And the way they spell it, in the sense, the way they feel in their environment with their parents, at least their formative years, initial years, is super critical. Super critical. But I'm sure I treat them differently. The boy and the girl are treated differently. They are different entities. The way they function immediately are different. I know it'll create some ruffles here and there, but it is immediately, instantaneously the truth. That I'll be more protective of my daughter no matter what. This guy I'm pushing around and he stands up. And I think in a world that we live in today, where information is just insanely available, like it's everywhere, it's just coming at you even if you don't want it, you are creating environments for them to not get information, but to channel the right ones, to channel that, the right kind of thought process, culture, etc. So I was sure of 3 truths. One, you love your children and give them a safe space. I believe they're growing up to be more secure individuals. And that's something that I see distinctly. Second one, I have this deep dying thirst to homeschool them, which I won't. I want them to come out.
Oh, I would love that.
No, but the truth is, why we don't homeschool our kids? I think it's the best thing to do, but it's just because are you willing to commit that much as a parent?
I think if you have 6 kids, you wouldn't need to. They would school themselves.
That would become a whole other school in my backyard. But I really, it's been a quest, because I just kind of was picking a school for my son. And it is not an easy quest. Right, like this school that we sit in is one that stands out for a reason, because you have someone like you sitting here who cares for your child. one of the things you're looking for when your child goes in a school bus for the first time and goes away is not ke math kyun banao se and what is the science like. It's, is someone going to care for my child? And then when you have another parent caring for your child who gives that kind of attention, it makes, you know, and a hell of a difference. Because the abundance, Meenal, like, I don't remember when we were 1 year old going to mother toddler program. Now there is a mother toddler, father toddler, half mother, half father, half toddler, mini, maxi, junior. It's insane. Yeah, man. It's, you want to give them everything at once. And I think it's great because the world is expanding and it's the children are getting smarter. I think evolution has kicked in and it's right in front of us. So, and my third take is they are super perceptive and receptive. They're taking in so many things that we might think they're not. You know, they know any kind of, if you're angry or there's some sort of disturbance, they know when you're happy, they're not. They know how to react, how to respond. And I would love to see education go in a form where it is tailored towards the child in terms of their needs, but it also kind of preps them really. I don't want to mollycoddle my children. I don't want them to be soft in that sense because I think the world, I mean, look at it. Schooling is the only place in the world where you have everyone who's 12 years old in one room. Where in life does that happen? You come to a workspace, are we all the same exact age? It doesn't happen. And I think there's a room for kind of preparing yourselves better because with the kind of information that exists, with the way the world is changing, with the way we are becoming more sensitive, at least today, about smaller things, you know, we get touchy about a lot of things. Mental health will be is a big issue today, will become even, it'll become ultra huge. And there is a lack of a sense of meaning in a lot of people, which drives them without a compass. And yeah, it's cool to say stuff like if you don't have a destination, you'll never be lost and all this nonsense, but that's not true. Having a compass makes you feel like you're going somewhere, and I think education plays that role. You don't turn on a headlight and see New York. You see 200 meters away, which is good, and you're constantly able to navigate that because the darkness and uncertainty does baffle us. It does baffle us, and to shed that light is the role of education, as I see it.
Thank you. Yeah, if you'd like to share.
I think before my daughter, I would live for like 1 year. Like, I think she is my conscious coming to life, right? So I start looking at things more consciously, reflecting on things. Obviously, I think she's teaching us more than what we are teaching her. But I don't think like nobody knows what's the right parenting, right? But I think at least you should know what you don't want to do. I think that has been my metric for all things in my life. Like at least eliminate what you don't want to do. So I was very clear that I don't want her to definitely just feel the pressure because everybody else is doing that. The priority is definitely happiness over anything else. Second is, I also, because having worked with so many schools and edtech companies and all of that, and have interacted with so many parents myself, I think there is this another wrong shift which has happened where parents feel that it is school's job to bring up my child, right? I have outsourced it to you. I have given you money, so it's your job to even instill values. I think that's the problem of parenting more than the school. So I was very clear saying that I want a school where I can do my bit and the school can do their bit, which is putting my daughter at the center of it. So she goes to a school, she goes by 8:30, she still goes in a rickshaw because I think that's where her bit of the roughness is there, and she comes back by 1:30, but she comes to our office. She doesn't go home because me and my wife, we are founders, co-founders. So we are very busy with our work, but she's there at our office. She's eating there, she's sleeping there, she's working there, she's interacting with the team. which I feel is also like a homeschooling or an office schooling
That's
or
cool.
whatever we want
That's
to.
our university. That's what it is.
It's going to be such a different experience for her when she grows up.
She's 7 and she's been at it for like now 3 years. So we are very clear that by 18 she should have like good 13, 14 years of entrepreneurial experience. That, okay, I've seen a lot of this, because of which she might start hating it, or at least she might get more clarity. So I think for me, education has expanded beyond the school, right? And I think we should not just see education is equal to school when it comes to our child. So what can you do as a parent is also extremely important. And fortunately, she's not a screen child, that she's constant. So that's also challenging for you, because you have to keep her engaged while there's a meeting happening and she's knocking in the conference room saying that, but our team is also fantastic, like she's always talking to people and working with them and all of that, which I think is also an important thing for a child. Like if they are put into a safe environment where there are adults, they will learn so much more, right? I think just one teacher in the class is not enough at times, right? Like you need to put them in front of many more people. So that's, I call, like me and my wife see this as a social experiment. Let's see how it turns up. But yeah, I think as long as she's happy, we are happy.
I'm sure. These formative years, she's going to pick up so many things just by osmosis. She's going to kind of feel, next time she is in front of many adults, she's still going to feel at home. She's not going to feel out of place, and she's not going to feel that, oh God, where have I landed myself? But that said, I think parents of today also struggle a lot. They are this tone generation where they want
Choice spoils us.
do. Very few exercise it. And even when people make a choice, they don't like the consequences of their choices. You kind of want to make a certain choice, but you want the consequences to be very different. You want to keep your children safe, and you want to ensure that they are taken care of, but we don't want them to experience the roughness of weather, to undergo certain problems. And that's a problem I've seen with many parents.
You know, if I may, there was this Japanese educator, I can't remember who, and I really loved it, because you're so right. It changed my perspective. It's that they don't exercise it, because the intent, I think, with parents today is this whole product development with the child, where I am engineering my child.
Yeah.
I want this child to be like this, have these traits. And he said it beautifully, and I can't quote him directly, but he says, we are not engineers for our child. We are at best shepherds.
Yeah.
Shepherding the qualities of 600 generations of genes that have come in to them. They have all of these traits that you had and your ancestors had and they didn't have come on in. And that shepherding those traits,
Is that job?
that's it.
But then they are calling it as a herd mentality, and there is also negative connotation to it.
You are the shepherd, shepherding the, like out of 600, shepherding the 20 traits that you want. Like he could become violent or he could become non-violent. But for instance, to me, I'll say this, a person should be very strong.
Yeah.
Only then they can be non-violent, you see. Weakness is not the same as non-violent. If I'm able to hurt you and I don't, I'm non-violent.
Yeah.
If I'm unable to hurt you, I'm just weak.
Yeah.
This understanding of strength and how to use it and not use it, Vivek, as we call it, I think is the understanding that they bring about. But man, that you made me think.
Great. Well, with that, we move forward. Is there anything about ReSchool that you want to talk about? Anything that you want to? And then we move to rapid fire.
I will only tell you this, Meenal. I haven't, I've read a bit of it only, and I've come across a lot of people writing books, especially when it serves their purpose. It seems to me like the kind of thought process that you brought in with the attention to detail in the illustrations and in the language so chosen is so incredible, because you have somehow managed to bring in your experience, world experience, the future, the changing world, the beyond world, and bring it together in stories that kind of make me feel like, okay, there is a direction, plus makes me question stuff, and plus gives me an understanding of who you are. So that's what I will tell you. It's powerful.
I think I have this, I often say this, I have a front row seat to the changing society. Every day I get to meet such interesting people. I get to hear their questions. I get to see what are the things that are shifting in our society. Earlier, finding a single parent was so unusual. Today, it is becoming so much more normal. Finding a single parent who's a male is becoming more normal. There are males who are raising their daughters. There are females who are working and raising their own children. There are families where the child has a biological father who's different. The child is growing up somewhere else, and yet it is a family. So this very idea and definition of what is it. So it's just amusing about how. It's just amusing how our societies are moving and all of that. So,
If I can read a line from here, it says, can we look at the parent as a human being who has had his or her own struggles and is learning to grapple with the ever-changing modern world rather than just the parent of that truant child? Look at that line. Because the truth is, I mean, who's being educated here, the parent or the child, you know? Because no one taught me how to parent.
Yeah.
They definitely taught me how to do my accounts and shit. But
Yeah. Like I have this thought, like just imagine like to become a CA you need a degree, just to become a parent you need a degree. And then only you become a parent.
that is so required. I mean, as a school, we would like, listen, you got to do this.
A degree in parenthood. I guarantee you there's a movie that has this kind of a future, right? Where
There are times when we face problems with students, it is indefinitely coming from parents. Like 100% we know that. And every time we try to reach out to parents, there's a wall that that we hit. And then we host these so-called parenting workshops and all of that. Unfortunately, the parents who are most required to attend those workshops never turn up. And then we are just speaking to those who are we're preaching the converted is what happens.
Yeah. That happens a lot.
That happens a lot, but yeah. So
I think for me, obviously, I think lots of great things in the book, but I think because I'm a marketer also and part educator, and so schools somehow see marketing as a wrong thing, right? Like, why do we need to do marketing? We are doing so well and we are the best and this, and everybody will know. But I think you acknowledging that as a school and putting it even in the book, I think that is a good starting point of what ReSchool also should look like, right? Like, you have to acknowledge how the world is changing. People want a narrative, they want a story that they would want to believe in and be with you for that story, right? It is not about putting ads only, right? Everything you are doing, everything you are doing is marketing, branding. How you see it, you might see it as documentation. The moment I tell educators, oh, just look at it as documentation, they are very happy. But the moment you say marketing, they feel, oh, it's something we are doing wrong. So it's not something wrong. It's part of our society, because every reel you are seeing is marketing. Every hoarding you are looking at is marketing. Every brochure you are reading, the book you are reading is marketing. Everything is marketing at the end of the day. But how you tell your story through those mediums is what you should decide. And schools are the best place to tell a story. Right? Like, there is more content in school than anywhere else. Every moment is a content in a school. But we are not acknowledging that. We end up creating a social media page which becomes like an event company page. That this happened and that happened. But I think I'm just so glad that you have touched upon the marketing bit of it, and hopefully more people will start looking at it more positively.
thank you. I think one of the things I realized early on was that marketing earns a bad rep because the messaging that you give out is very different from the product or the services that you're giving. So hence the advertising marketing feels like, it feels as if you're trying to influence the behavior without actually talking about what you're doing. It feels, but when marketing comes inherently from the things that you're doing, or when you are talking about actually just the work that you're doing in a format that makes the other person understand your point of view, I think it is not marketing after that. It's just communicating with the other human and telling them that this is possible.
Yeah, like one thing I tell school is, do your storytelling well from June to December, so you don't have to do marketing from December to March, right? If you do, like, your things are put out well for like 6-7 months, people will know. And social media has given that power, right? Like, people will share that, oh, something interesting is happening, and that will stay in their mind. So, yeah.
You're so right. I think we schools need to relook at how we communicate. And simple things like if we do our messaging well, as you said, giving those circulars which are like 2 pages long and expecting the parent to abide by it is such a silly thing. I mean, who reads that? मैं सरकार की notice में नहीं पढ़ती. मतलब 2 पेज का. It's just crazy in today's world if you're still expecting the parent to go by it. And there are better means of communicating. There are better ways of communicating. It is time we adopt all those things and reschool ourselves to.
You know, on this marketing front, I mean, I don't know, is Geeta marketing?
100%.
But then would we impact so many lives and have the deep kind of change that it had after 5,000-10,000 years, you know? It's not marketing. Okay, we can view it as marketing if there was someone out there selling it. When you look at marketing, to me, has a lot to do with intention, in the sense, if I'm in a business, then my intention is to add value to your life. So all my businesses, for instance, are social impact businesses. They're for profit, 100%. And they're 100%, each one of them is meant so that it amplifies everyone's life who's a part of that business. And hence, you would want more and more people to do it, to be a part of it. And hence, marketing is that function of intention. Am I trying to get something out of you that I don't deserve, or am I trying to give you something that you deserve? And I think that's what this has been.
And that's what true marketing is.
Yeah.
The other side is just fooling you. Yeah. It is just about, if somebody is showing you a pipe dream of saying X amount of money is going to get you eyeballs, then it's really not marketing. And I think Aditya would be.
That's where the problem is, right? Because everybody has seen that side of marketing. Exactly. This side of marketing is tough. It has to be more honest, authentic. You have to get into the depth of it. You can't tell an agency that, okay, this is the brief, write a copy and come back. Because they don't understand education. So they can't write that. Like, I just saw I think this is the lowest point in education marketing. I just saw one ad of a coaching institute where they published a photo of a girl saying that because she did not come to our institute, she has suffered.
No way.
And this is not it. On top of that, they have mentioned some other institute by not naming them but calling them something ridiculous. I don't even want to mention that. The number of suicides which have happened.
Man, get out of here.
This is now, but then when you see this, people feel marketing is bad, but this is bad marketing. This is not what you should do.
No, but I don't know. But you know, Aditya, I think what's going to be painful is that people will actually buy that ad, and because of that, send their kids to that institute.
Yeah, I think.
Man, I'm telling you, it's like if someone makes a really bad movie, who do you blame? I blame the watchers.
Yeah.
The audience that goes and watches it, because that's why the producer makes it. There's an audience for this.
I think.
So fear sells very fast.
Correct. And
right?
Education removes that fear, and hence this whole cycle, right?
Education very often perpetuates that.
Well, most education in that sense. Our quest is to remove it.
Our quest, definitely. Otherwise, if you look at the schooling system, and I'm not talking whole education, but the schooling system starts with the idea of fear. It tells you, if you don't do this, you're going to fail. If you don't do, and there is fear upside down. As a school, we work with the idea of courage, the courage to question, the courage to be original. Otherwise, it's so fearful to just face an adult, look at him or her like that, and that principal will standing tall in front of that 3-year-old. Oh God, we perpetuate fear, if anything. So we have to constantly fight it. The hierarchy is set in such a way that fear rules the corridors.
Hence ReSchool, huh?
Hence ReSchool. Definitely. And now we come to the last segment. Very simple. A few rapid fire questions. And okay, so we'll start with you, Aditya, first. If you were the principal of a school, what is one rule that you would want to change?
I would want to change the timetable. I don't know if it's a rule, but I don't think the subject-based timetable work in today's world. It has to be skill-based timetable.
All right. So what would that look like? Public speaking?
No, public speaking, like the most favorite thing in education world, right? The 6 C's and 4 C's, and now I think it's 8 C's, and I don't know how many C's are adding up. But yeah, I think why would you not have a period one which is collaboration, where I'm sitting here talking to somebody in Japan and understanding their stuff. why would I not have a period about creativity, and which is not just the art or not just the performing art. It could be any problem solving which might be creative. And saying that I just put that, and I think Plato's has that kind of a pedagogical approach. I think that's what's going to be. I think Andrea Schleicher, the OECD head, he once said that soft skills are the new hard skills. And I think if somebody who understands education and educational data and has seen so many schools, if he has a belief like that, that has to become part of who we are.
Yash, if you were the principal, what would you?
And I have so many thoughts here. But instantly when you asked him that question, I didn't know if it was the same one coming to me. But I don't know what the rules are anymore. Okay. Like what schools have as.
Your school,
yeah, I would not do the "Can I come in, sir?" That's a rule I would change. You're building slaves, and it bothers me. It is the rule of kings to make more kings in that sense, and not to create just these minions who kind of follow and direct. And I think we've done such a great job of that it's impacted our country in a deep form, so to kind of let go of the slavery of it, that's what I would say.
Create a more fear-free space.
That's a rule, right? I believe that's
not a rule, that's a quality, I think. But yeah, this is symbolic of.
Yes, do this, do that.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more renegade.
Okay, a book you believe every child must read.
Child must read. Child, we're talking 5-10 years.
Pick your choice.
Okay, if they're after I think they must read. If they're very young, they should kind of just look at pictures and learn all kinds of stuff. Like we read the boy, the fox, the horse, and the mole, or something like this yesterday, just last night. However, Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged.
Okay.
That's a tough one on me, but I think I would not say particular book, but I think this whole genre which is talking about mindset, the Malcolm Gladwells of the world, because I don't think we think so much about how we think. Okay. I think those kind of books should be given to children so much more, because everything else is more figuring out hacks, and this whole generation is about hacks. So we are all trying to figure out what's the quick way of getting things done, but I think all the answers are in our head at least, right? And if we can figure out ways to know how we function, so yeah, I think more of thinking-based books would
actually be. And because you said that, I take mine back. I would actually start with stories like they know the Mahabharata or the Ramayana or the Bible. Those stories have so many lessons. They're like the OG, and then all these hacks came about. I would do that.
Yeah.
Stories which are like
things that would build mental models for the students, which they can then use and apply whenever needed, rather than just give them information and tactical stuff. Okay, interesting. Yeah, and a great fan of Malcolm Gladwell and Ayn Rand. So I've read Atlas Shrugged, 3-4 times.
Really, you have?
Yeah. And every time it's made new meaning for me. But
who is John Galt? Huh?
Yeah. As a team read, we had Outliers just last month.
Great book.
Amazing, and it was we drew out so many conclusions from there. So, okay, the most undervalued skill in today's world.
Public speaking.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I think public speaking now people are valuing more, but yeah, definitely. I think when we were growing up, nobody even taught us कि stage पे कैसे जाना है, कैसे like you will fumble, like the moment, like just getting onto the stage is where you start fumbling. Forget taking up the mic and speaking. I think I feel kindness is very underrated. I was just talking to my daughter last night that there is a reason why we are called mankind, but we have forgotten about the whole kind part of who we are. So I think the kindness is going away in every relationship, whether it is parenting or whether it is husband, wife, whatever. I think that kindness is going away. So yeah, I think that's very underrated.
Great. One quirky rule or an unusual thing that you experienced in your school life, so something that it could never make sense to you, something that you believed was just absurd.
Oh.
Yeah, so many things, but yeah.
But now that I look at it, they don't seem absurd now. At that time, they seemed very absurd. And in boarding school, we had a lot of rules. we couldn't go out after exactly 7:15 p.m. We couldn't step out, but now I know that there was dangerous stuff out there.
Given the Nat Geo school you were in, I think that was a
It
good.
seemed absurd then. I guess one of the ones that was absurd was we were able to call. I would write letters to my mom, and she would write letters back to me. Right? And that's another beauty of Nat Geo.
You are the last generation
Who
to say
wrote
that.
letters anymore? Letters.
Yeah.
Man, letters. And I would draw pictures for her and stuff. But we were able to talk to our parents once a week. That was absurd. Why once a week?
Yeah.
Why not once a month?
No, but I was in 5th grade. I think, I get it now. It was this kind of creating.
That you had to.
But nothing else was absurd in that sense.
I think rules were, for that whole generation, I think those rules were fine. But one thing which was very absurd for me was they would not want you to stand outside the school for even 5 minutes after the school. Like, you have to disperse. Like, you can't meet your friends, you can't talk. And for some strange reason, every time our principal will walk out, I'll be the only guy standing and my friends would have disappeared. I don't know why every time it happened to me, but it was bizarre because I think friendship is the glue which brings children back to school every day. Now, I think schools have to encourage more of that rather than, like, I had teachers who have told me to change my friends. I think that was also bizarre. I said, once she called me and she said, you are doing well, but I think you should change your friends. I said, ma'am, I'm doing well, you should be happy about it. Let me take care of my friends.
Let me change my friends. I will impact them.
Yeah.
I think you loved standing outside the school so much, you actually bought an office close to it. So it's like, his office is so close to close to Asia.
Just like 100 meters away from my school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be the most outstanding alumni of this school.
It's a question, man. I haven't thought about this. What did I find absurd?
I think one of the things that I found absurd was just this idea of these uniforms with ties and all of that. And it's so hot. It's sweltering hot heat. And you expect the children to wear a tie and a belt and this and that and then play and also behave and all of it. I mean, it is like in complete... And in Ahmedabad, I see people wearing jackets. Blazers and all of that. Like,
That's crazy.
it's, it has to be in sync with the environment that I understand the importance of uniforms. However, the uniforms have to resemble your environment. So I think just sometimes rules that have been copy pasted from a different environment altogether.
Yeah, it's cold there, you're wearing a woolen. And especially you're not in the AC all the time. Like, we're in the AC all the time, but okay.
Yeah.
All right. Most interesting trip or a vacation that you've taken, or the most interesting place you've been to, something that you would...
This is what I do for a living.
Okay.
The most interesting, 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, I got an invite from a dear friend of mine and mentor. He sends me an email saying, Yash, you want to go to Africa? He lives in the Caribbean. He's a public speaking mentor of mine. I said, sure, if this guy's asking me. Sends me a big bill. I don't know where I'm going. End up in Tanzania in a place called Lake Eyasi. And turned out that we were going to live with a tribe called the Hadza tribe. Now, to explain this, the only way I can tell you is these are the only one of the few truly nomadic tribes that still exist in the world today. For example, they have not discovered metal yet. They don't know what metal is. So understand this. As a pure vegetarian at that time, going in there, we're 10 days in the jungle, eating, living, breathing with them. Our choice was, do you know a baobab tree?
Yes.
It's like a giant banyan tree with a hole in the middle. So we had two options, live inside the baobab tree or outside the baobab tree. That's where we slept, and we're in Africa. We're surrounded by leopards and lions, and there's nothing that protects you except one thing, because of which we're still alive, and I think for generations. And that one thing is the fire. That fire in between them, and we're living with the Hadza. And we would go, it's sunlight or not even daybreak, and they would be running around. We wake up, first thing you do is what? Go hunting. The day ends, you come back, and what do? You sit around a fire and tell stories of the day's hunt. This is how culture was built, and I'm seeing that from scratch. And what made it incredible was the experience was mind-blowing, but now you're with these guys, you don't speak their language, we had a translator, and we're only 12 people from around the world, or maybe 15 people, I was the only one from Asia. And the questions we would ask them, like, hey, what was one question that kind of shook me? Oh, so, what happens after death? It says, well, you bury them. And what happens? No, you bury them. It's as simple as where they are. What do you do now? Like, what's your next move? I say, well, there's too much shit in this camp, so we'll move to another camp. Their understanding of the world, as basic as it is I believe where the world is going to go in the future. We're going to get more basic. We're going to get more back to, just where it was. And it was the most incredible experience out of all of those, that I've had. So, Hadzas in Africa.
Yeah. You have something to do with animals for sure.
Oh, for sure. I believe you do too. You came from them, but I am in touch with it.
Yeah,
I am in touch with it.
Yeah, I think more than a trip, I think we went to Dubai Expo. I think which was very interesting. One, obviously, you just see it for the exhibits and all.
The grandness of it.
Yeah, but I think being able to see a vision of a country in whatever little way you can, and to be able to do a comparative of their vision, like real time, like you don't need to really travel the country. I think that was very interesting for me. Again, we went because of my daughter, because we said that this was just after COVID, that this could be the best way.
Going, yeah.
This could be the best way for her to experience the world things and stuff like that. I think that was fantastic, and I think that also gave me this whole thing about India, and I think which is changing. Like when you see Dubai or when you see Middle East or some of the countries there, they don't have as many resources as we have, right? Like they don't have people that we have, the intelligence, everything. But the vision is so damn large, right? Like they think big only, they don't think small. And I think India for a very large time has been poor because of thinking, not because of resources, which I think is changed.
In more poverty driven and
So I think so. I didn't like the India Pavilion, very honestly. I still felt that it was underrated, like than what it should have been. It was done well and all of that, but I think some of the thoughts, the concept that we see from the world and what they are championing and what they are advocating, that also tells you that, oh, maybe we should also start looking at stuff like that. So I think that was very interesting for me to see what Saudi Arabia is trying to do, to what Singapore is trying to advocate, to what Switzerland is trying to advocate. That was a good mix of seeing globalization, marketing, narrative, education, everything coming together there was very interesting for me in the most recent history.
And last question. What is it that you are reschooling yourself in? So presently, I think all of us are on a journey of reschooling constantly, but as individuals, as people, what is it that you are reschooling yourself in?
So I personally feel that whatever we have, a large part of my life is because, that's like 12, 15, 18 hours of my life is because obviously that takes the center stage to most of the thing that I'm thinking. And we have seen very interesting times in last 5 years of our existence. But one thing that I know is that what has got us here is not going to take us further. So what is that will take us further is something I am trying to reimagine. So I'm going back and questioning everything we have done. Sometimes people say don't fix it till it's broken, but don't wait for it to break, right? So I'm constantly going back and asking myself, saying that, is this how we do recruitment? Is this how we do client servicing? Is this how we do our strategy? Is there something that we need to change? Because the world is changing, the brands are evolving, the team is changing, more younger people are coming. Like the youngest person at our office is like 20-year-old now. And they have greater ideas than at least me. So how do you reimagine your organization again and again with the changing time, changing people? Is I'm trying to reschool, rework, reimagine myself.
No, one of the greatest inputs that I ever got from someone in my life, it was exactly 11 years ago to the day, and he said, spend a certain amount of time and a certain amount of money on your brain every single year. And I have no qualms in kind of telling you, when I started 11 years ago, it was 10,000 rupees in 3 days. It was a course, something I learned, and then, a public speaking course, and then Tony Robbins and I were in Fiji, and then, I'm in Australia for this program, and then, it started getting crazy. I got my NLP master practitioner. 2 years ago, I got my helicopters license, and then I was living with the Hadza, and every year, last year was 6 months and a significantly larger sum of money that went into my brain. 6 months, I was not in the country, 181 days. This year, here's my big ReSchool, because I take ReSchool seriously in the sense it's not just because we have these questions, what do we do? But it's like, where do I go now to learn this? Who is going to teach it to me? So I'm going to Harvard in November. Because here's my problem is as we evolved, and his story seems to be very similar, where you've, let's say, once upon a time, $500,000 was the dream.
Yeah.
Now I'm paying $500,000 to someone a year. I don't know how to manage him. Now I pay someone so much money, and then I have to work towards making his life better. Like now I'm servicing him. No, I don't know how to handle him. I don't know how to separate myself from an organization that became large. I was 10 people, now I'm 140. You know, I was 0 members, now we're 5,000. At this scale and size, I don't know the best ways, tools, mechanisms, systems, processes to be able to make it the most efficient system that is. So I'm doing a higher level leadership program at Harvard and 2 courses at IIM Ahmedabad, because my focus is only, yes, I'm able to build people. How do I build people that then build better people and keep the mechanism whirring using systems, which I believe I currently need a significant improvement on.
Yeah, but I think the interesting take on that is it's also like a school, right? Like
you yourself are a school.
Or a school. Like you're constantly reschooling yourself and imagining that how do you do best for these people and how they can collectively do their best.
And you're trying and testing and there's I just think, man, that there's a lot of times we don't have the time for that much trial and error. Like we must learn from the experience of, like, if you have tried and failed, you will tell me. She has tried and failed, she will tell me. And that's in education in any form. If you are in an environment with people like you who have been there and done that, it's just that you've been here and they've done that, and you're kind of able to shoot a bullet off of each one's shoulder and then
there's no way you can have the experience of everyone else.
But I think my biggest criticism about private schools is collaboration. They just don't collaborate.
Yeah.
Have you seen schools coming together and saying that I have this amazing teacher who teaches fractions really well and your teacher should learn from?
No, they're not.
There's not even a dialogue about that.
Forget that. They will not even come for inter-school participation. They will come only if it is an inter-school competition.
Really?
So if we have to, like we have Founders Plea coming in, when we ask people to come in and participate and all that, they're not too keen. But when we call it that there's a competition for the best, this thing, then suddenly there will be sign-ups. So, so they forget collaboration, there's only
I've never thought of that. That's so insane. Because we do it in business all the time. Let's collaborate. But in schools, we don't.
Yeah.
Well, with that, we come to an end of this fantastic podcast. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have both of you. And I think we're done. Or do we need any other?
Well, we give them a straight shot. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you so much.
You're awesome. Thank you.
So are you. Thank you.